Certainly my dark night of the soul. And I would say going back to school actually was a very good thing. And this leads me to my second key point, which is to keep learning and invest in yourself. Now, when I knew our marriage was falling apart, I made the decision I would try to go get my MBA. At the time, this felt like a real stretch to me. You know, I'd been out of school for 16 years, and I thought, oh, could I even pass the GMAT? And I remember when I told my boss I was going to leave Hong Kong, leave banking, he said to me, Dinah, why do you want to spend thousands of dollars? In 2 years, you could be a second vice president. Well, he had a point, and I know he meant well. Have you ever had people give you well-meaning advice, but you knew in your heart, you knew that it wasn't meant for you? I knew that after the divorce, it was going to be a different ballgame. I was going to be supporting myself, and I wanted to give myself options. And I figured I could always go back into banking, but with an MBA, I certainly would have more options. And yes, I did spend thousands of dollars, but hands down, I feel it's the best investment I ever made. And I do feel that the best investment any of us ever made is in ourselves, in our own learning. So we will fast forward 10 years. I graduated, I got a job with a Fortune 500. I was in investor relations and strategic planning. And then I went with 3 startups. 2 of them were high tech, and all 3 were in electronic retailing. Very exciting. Keep in mind, this was 25 years ago. So this was really very early days, and it was all very exciting. I was in marketing, and I was also in international business development. I traveled on business to London, to Paris, to Milan, to Tokyo, to Hong Kong. So it was all very exciting. The thing about being with a startup, especially a high-tech startup, I would say, is you can't be risk adverse. And they have a way of running out of funding. And 2 of the 3 ran out of funding. And this was the 3rd one. And sure enough, after $200 million by the parent company, they said, okay, we have to close this down. It's just not going to work. It was ahead of its time. And at the time, I was in Chicago. And I thought to myself, okay, Dinah, I think that's enough for startups. Enough for the startups. Let's do something different. And I thought, okay, I'll go to Wall Street. That made sense to me. And so I was kind of, in the process of packing up, and something really kind of, I would say, unusual happened. I don't know, it may have happened to you. Sometimes something kind of out of the blue just wham, hits you on the side of your head. I remember somehow I thought, no, I don't want to go to Wall Street. I want to go to Washington, D.C. And you go, wow, where did that come from? Well, years earlier, before I met my husband, I was majoring in international relations. And my dream at that time was to graduate, take the State Department Foreign Service exam, and then one day be a diplomat in the Foreign Service. And so this wanting to spend some time in government service has always been with me. It was way in the back of my head or somewhere. And somehow at this time, it just came forth. And that feeling was very strong. And I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to go and spend a few years in government service. But how does one go about getting a job in the government? How does one go about getting an appointment, political appointment? I had no clue, no idea. And this really takes me to my third point, which is ignorance can be a blessing. Yes, you heard me correctly. Ignorance can be a blessing. Here I was with no clue about how to get started. I called a friend, I mean, not a good friend, but a friend, and he was a successful business person. And I asked him if he had any contacts or any ideas. And a few days later, he called me and he said, Dinah, after the election, the White House is flooded with 70,000 resumes. Now, this was, 25 years ago, so today, heaven only knows how many thousands and thousands. But he said 70,000. Somebody gave him that number. And, we hung up, and I guess his thought must have been, okay, that did it for me. But my thought was, here I am. I'm a marketing person. The least I could do was to mount a marketing campaign on my own behalf. So I decided that's what I would do. And I belonged to 2 Republican organizations. When I came back to get my MBA in 1980, I was a Reagan supporter, and I had joined the Senatorial Committee, Republican Senatorial Committee, and the Congressional Committee. I wrote to them, the head of these committees, and I asked for a referral letter, and I got them. So, and then I had my detailed resume, I had a personal bio, and then I wrote what I thought was a fabulous covering letter saying why I was so passionate about wanting to go and help the administration and why, they really needed me. And I had at least, 5, 6 pages, put them together, and no, I was not going to mail this by regular mail. With 70,000 resumes, I mailed it by Federal Express. And of course I had a name, and off it went, and I waited, I guess a week, I don't remember. I figured it takes them quite a long time. They got all those resumes. Then I called, and of course you get passed from person to person. And finally, they said, no, we haven't seen it. So I go, okay, fine. I put together the package again. Off it went again, the second time, Federal Express. The same thing. I waited a week, called, got passed from person to person, hadn't seen it. Okay. I put the package together again, and I sent it off again, the third time. And we repeated the same thing. Called, get passed from person to person. Nobody had seen it. Okay. Okay, I was thinking, really? Is this a sign from the universe? Sometimes you're not sure. You're not sure what the signs are. Okay, then I thought, all right, I'm going to send it again. So I put the package together again, sent it off again, and called again. Oh my God, somebody received it. They were looking at it. I was so excited. I mean, actually somebody was looking at it. They had received it. And so I just thought, oh, this was incredible. It actually, and I don't have the time to go into all the details, but I did get the interviews, I did get the job, and ended up in Washington. I would say the best thing, well, one of the best things, is that nobody sat me down in the beginning and said to me, Dinah, you didn't even work in the campaign, forget about it, your chances are going to be nil to none. I didn't know that. I was totally ignorant of that. When I got there, especially in the beginning, they often had gatherings with the political appointees, and the first question everyone asked everyone was, what did you do in the campaign? And I would say, well, and they would look at me like, wow, this is, they couldn't believe it. finally, I remember one time when I said that to someone, they looked at me, they go, "My God, they hired you on merit." I thought that was really, so they certainly didn't hire me because I had any political, political strings and ties, that's for sure. But the 3.5 years that I was in Washington, I would say, were among the best in terms of the experience in my career. They were among the most enriching, fulfilling time. And there were plenty of frustrations and challenges, but I had those in the private sector as well. When I went into government, some of my friends thought I was really hurting my career. And much to their surprise, actually much to my own surprise, when I came out, I managed to land a job that in my mind, I finally broke the glass ceiling. I was a corporate level vice president in a Fortune 500 company. I was the vice president worldwide business development for the Burger King Corporation. And this position appealed to me because it's international, and I felt the franchising model was really a very useful model for so many countries, and especially for many countries in Asia. And the 2.5 years that I was with Burger King, I felt were very productive. I saved the business in South Korea. When I joined, the franchisee was bankrupt and the business was going down the drain, and no one was doing anything about it. Our managing director in Singapore didn't want to do anything about it. My boss, the senior vice president finance, said, "Dinah, it's a can of worms. You don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole." And I thought, wow, if I don't touch it, who's going to? And so I did. Over the course of a year, I managed to, get the old franchisee out. Had to do this step by step legally. I worked with the government there. I didn't want them to think that we were this big, bad American company taking advantage of this Korean company, and found a new franchisee to come in and take over the business. And the business was really reinvigorated. The other thing I did was I put China on the radar screen of within the company and of our senior executives. When I joined, China was not on anyone's radar screen. And it took some time. Finally, I put it on their radar screen, and I even managed to get